heartfelt plea for unity in America by demonizing and blaming the left. This is just another day. This weekend, many in the nation were still dealing with the aftermath of the assassination of Charlie Kirk, and with that, the Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, took it upon himself to hit the airwaves with a specific message.
I think that the country needs to see leaders in Congress and leaders with platforms all around the country speaking truth and bringing calm to the situation. We should appeal, as Lincoln reminded us so many years ago, to the better angels among us all. But I think if we all adopt these practices together and we turn down the rhetoric.
Leaders appealing to our better angels, men and women turning down the rhetoric, I think it's a message that most of us could get behind. Most of us.
People on the left are much likelier to defend and celebrate political violence. This is not a both sides problem. If both sides have a problem, one side has a much bigger and malignant problem, and that is the truth we must be told.
So J.D. Vance was less about joining hands to heal a nation and more about using those hands to give a certain two fingers to Democrats. Got it. Yes, in a moment where this country could use some healing, today the Vice President of the United States took over Charlie Kirk's broadcast and decided to use it as an opportunity to get some jabs in.
And while our side of the aisle certainly has its crazies...
Your side of the aisle has its crazies? It's the leader of your entire party, the guy who you yourself, J.D. Vance, called America's Hitler, seems a tad more significant than a brief caveat. But I'm sorry, you were saying?
It is a statistical fact that most of the lunatics in American politics today are proud members of the far left.
Look, I'm not really sure where JD is getting that statistical fact from. It's definitely not from the Washington Post article that showed that over the last decade, 96% of incidents in which extremists killed someone were committed by people motivated by right-wing ideologies. But those pesky facts aside, having the Vice President of the United States spout this type of rhetoric isn't just incredibly irresponsible and divisive, it's also not exactly keeping with Mike Johnson's plea for peace. But maybe Vance's guest, Stephen Miller, aka the King of Kind, the considerate constable, everyone's favorite hairless helper, could strike that calmer tone that we've been waiting for.
We are going to channel all of the anger that we have over the organized campaign that led to this assassination to uproot and dismantle these terrorist networks. It is a vast domestic terror movement. And with God as my witness, we are going to use every resource we have at the Department of Justice, Homeland Security, and throughout this government to identify, disrupt, dismantle, and destroy these networks and make America safe again for the American people. It will happen, and we will do it in Charlie's name.
Anyone else getting some not great John Wick vibes right there? But since it's Stephen Miller, it's more like John Prick. It gets pretty lonely here. But sadly, while J.D. Vance's guest today featured Miller and many other members of the administration, one person not on the program was Donald Trump. But don't worry, he was able to appeal to our better angels a little later in the day.
The killing of Melissa Hortman, the attack on Paul Pelosi, the attack on Gabby Giffords, the attack on the Pennsylvania governor's mansion, why make the case that violence is only on one side? It seems to be taking place.
I didn't say it's on one side, but I say the radical left causes tremendous violence, and they seem to do it in a bigger way. But the radical left really is caused a lot of problems for this country. I really think they hate our country.
Oof, that's pretty sad to hear. For Trump, I mean, because he worked so hard putting together that vision board earlier this year. Remember?
My proudest legacy will be that of a peacemaker and unifier. That's what I want to be, a peacemaker and a unifier.
Yeah, he's been 0 for 2 on that one since those words left his lips. Frankly, what could probably bring about more peace and unity in our nation is if the president of the whole country mourned the losses from these political assassinations equally.
In retrospect, given all of the moving ways that this White House has paid tribute to Charlie Kirk,
right,
do you think it would have been fitting to lower the flags to half-staff when Melissa Hortman, the Minnesota House Speaker, was gunned down by an assassin as well?
I'm not familiar.
The Minnesota House Speaker, a Democrat, who was assassinated this summer
Well, if the governor had asked me to do that, I would have done that. But the governor of Minnesota didn't ask me. Had the governor of Minnesota asked me to do that, I would have done that gladly.
So in some ways, the non-lowering of the flags at the White House is really just a testament to how little the governor of Minnesota apparently cares about those people. Trust me, it makes more sense if you just don't use any type of logic. But one of the biggest questions being asked right now across the political spectrum is how do we prevent the youth of America from being corrupted online? And for that, our president was swift in his handing off that question to his attorney general.
I'd ask Pam that question. I don't know if you or Todd could give an answer to that. Somebody has to bear some responsibility.
You know, and President Trump, I've always told parents, you got to watch what your kids are doing on the internet, what they're doing online. What they're listening to, what they're reading. They're all online. They're all on their phones all the time. Parents have got to monitor that because this starts when you're young.
Exactly. It starts when you're young. Right now, your kids could be on the internet watching or reading God knows what. Maybe it's posts from some fringe lunatic glorifying the idea that going to war with an American city is the right thing to do. Or maybe your kids are hiding under the covers with their phones, taking in lies about how America is the only country in the world that uses mail-in voting, even though that's not even close to true. Or maybe your child is hanging out in their friend's house, and that kid's parents aren't nearly as diligent as you are with monitoring their screens, and so suddenly your precious little angel is being subjected to some creep's post showing an AI-generated video of a previous president being arrested. Yep. You just never know who you can trust online. The reality is, either Trump, J.D. Vance, and Stephen Miller all missed Speaker Mike Johnson's comments about lowering the temperature in this country and tamping down the rhetoric, or they actually have no intention of doing so, because every chance they get, they seem to be taking this opportunity to chastise and demonize the left. And this isn't just a today thing. No, this is what was happening right after the assassination of Charlie Kirk, but before anyone had any information about who had committed such an atrocity. We didn't get a let's wait for the facts or we don't have all the info, so let's not jump to conclusions moment. No, instead, we received this from the President of the United States.
Radical left political violence has hurt too many innocent people and taken too many lives.
You see, while some people talk about lowering the temperature, Trump keeps using his tiny thumbs to jack up the heat on our country's thermostat. Look, I don't know if guys like Vance and Miller are exploiting the death of Charlie Kirk, or if they simply feel emboldened right now, but the truth is, it kind of doesn't matter, because the net effect is the same. They are doubling down and furthering a movement that thrives on racism, bigotry, and misogyny. And I'm not here to relitigate Charlie Kirk's positions. God knows that's been done ad nauseum over the last week. But talking about black people being inherently less qualified in their jobs, not exactly a message of love and harmony. Neither is calling the Civil Rights Act a mistake or about 1,000 other insane positions. Trump, Vance, and Miller have spent years going around the country sowing division through their rhetoric, and now they want to point to the division that they sowed as proof that the other side is somehow divisive. Which is kind of like getting mad at a plant for growing after you gave it sunshine and water on a regular basis. Of course, if that was a MAGA plant, it would probably be holding a sign that said, "Get off my soil." But the message spoken by these guys today was not one of love or compassion or any other buzzwords they love to assign to their movement, which makes it even more reprehensible that they are trying to frame their efforts as being what God wants.
St. Paul tells us in the book of Ephesians to put on the full armor of God. Let all of us put on that armor and commit ourselves to that cause for which Charlie gave his life, to rebuild a united States of America, and to do it by telling the truth.
Great choice of Bible verse. Right after a shooting and when the nation is freaking out that we're on the cusp of a civil war, telling people to put on their armor. But what do I know? I mean, JD is a much more religious man than I am, and maybe the behavior that these guys are exemplifying is exactly what God would have wanted. You know, loving thy neighbor, turning the other cheek, and what was that last one?
I really think they hate our country.
Exactly. Before you go, if you enjoyed this content and you want to see more and support independent media, please subscribe to this channel. The subscribe button will be right here on the screen. But second, the reality is that we are now in a political environment where this administration can lean on any of the social media platforms to suppress certain voices if they don't like critical coverage. That means my longevity here is in the hands of a few tech billionaires who are already making it clear that they are willing to cater to this administration. To that end, signing up for my newsletter is a way for me to reach you directly if that ever becomes necessary. I'll put the link right here on the screen as well, so please sign up. It's free, but there's also an option to do a paid subscription if you'd like to support me and my team. I really appreciate it. Thanks so much for watching.